everybody, it's Monique
And it's Paige.
with Sacred Potential, where we talk about the overlap of faith, creativity, and possibility. And today we're talking about the Shawshank Redemption and the power of hope.
I actually got to see this movie. I've seen it once on the plane, and then I don't know if I was actually paying attention because I didn't really remember. I remember like little things here and there, and then recently watched it again with Mo, who's watched it like at least 500 times, and got a little dramatic for me. Like got a little like physically dramatic. Like what? Yeah. So it was very very interesting movie. But take it away, Mo.
Oh, well, so we just are assuming that probably most of you have seen this film. It is amazingly the highest ranked film on IMDb, which means it's had the highest reviews of like what just general public people watching it, which is very interesting because when the movie came out, it was like more like a sleeper hit. Like it was not even a... It was almost became like a cult classic or something where not that many... I actually got to see it in the movie theater when it came out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember it so clearly. I remember instantly being like, this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen.
What drew you to want to see this in the theater? Like, what was, I mean...
Well, because I could see from the previews that it was about hope. So this film, it's incredible because it resonates with so many people across all walks of life. Like it's just so interesting to me. Like I feel like this film, it breaks down like these usual sort of barriers where people are like, well, one person's a conservative, one person's a liberal, or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like it obliterates all that because it's ultimately about hope. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where shall we begin?
Well, I mean, in terms of like my favorite scenes, I mean there are a few. Morgan Freeman's character Red, he's narrating the film for the most part, and of course I'm like following him because he's essentially following all the prisoners, namely Andy, who enters after I don't know how long, but he's there for like what 10 years. How long has Red been there actually?
I think it's like what 40 years or at least or something by the time
Yes, because when we're introduced to Red's character, he immediately is going before the board to try to get
and then you see every year he goes up and they deny him.
Yes, and they deny him every year, and I just oh my gosh, I feel like I'm like gonna cut ahead because there was just but okay, so Andy enters and all that stuff, and so there's this whole idea or wonder, did he commit this crime? Mm-hmm. Are we assuming that people have already seen the film?
We hope you have. Well, we'll just say there's some spoilers in this
because
we're just going to talk about
it
because ultimately it's a story about this guy who is accused and sentenced to what is like a life sentence, right? Mm-hmm. I think he has for murdering his wife,
right,
and
his wife's lover.
And his wife's lover, right?
Yeah, right.
And so I mean, I don't want to make this too into little nitty gritty details. Yeah. But ultimately, just the fact that it's about a man who spends all these years in prison. We're going to have to give spoilers because it's like the whole point of the hope
for sure.
of it.
No, this is a spoiler. Like if you have never seen this film, you might not want to listen to this
until you've watched
it. Come back after.
But I mean, okay, so like we've talked about before in terms of like some of the stuff that's so the contrasts of some of the, not just the characters, right? But I also like the fact that the characters are not, you don't look at the prisoners necessarily as the bad guys.
No.
It's very interesting because you see how cruel the guards are and how the guy running the prison, he's like this Bible quoting, he's like constantly quoting the Bible and constantly talking about God and judgment, and yet he's like this evil guy. Yeah. And that in itself is like such a powerful thing. So you've got that there. Mm-hmm. The way that this film builds and the way that like you see like horror, I just feel like it's such it humanizes people who are normally looked down on by society, for like prisoners or no matter, like we don't even know what most of those people are in there for that are the main characters in this.
You don't care. You don't care. You're just like, you're engaged. It's like, because, they are, I mean, because in the beginning, they're all making jokes like, oh, yeah, I'm innocent too. I'm innocent. No, I'm innocent, you know. And
which is like a jail joke.
Exactly.
You know,
a jail joke. I like that.
It's just in general, I think that everybody goes in and says they're innocent, right?
Exactly. But after a while, I mean, you even as the spectator, you're kind of laughing about it as well. Just like, okay. But then you start to learn more about these guys, and you know, it's all again being told through Red's eyes. And I mean, and granted, you know, Andy is one of the, if not the main character alongside Morgan Freeman's character. But dude, like, I've learned so much from him. It's because just to be in an impossible situation and to make the most out of like something impossible and horrific and horrible. That's just, I mean, in any situation that you're in, that's honestly, let's be real, that's not the first thing you're thinking about. Let me just try to see what I can, especially, I mean, dude's in prison, right, for a crime that he may or may not have committed, right? But I mean, it's seeming like he probably really didn't. So, and to one of the most evil people alongside the dude.
No, that mean guard guy?
Yeah, exactly. Because I was talking about the Bible-toting evil man.
Yeah. But in addition to him is that guard.
In addition to him, one of the more evil, another evil person in there is this guard who, he is. There's a scene where he's talking with the other prison guards and something regarding what his wife.
Tax. Oh, yeah. Him getting some inheritance money or something like that, right?
Exactly. And it wasn't, he didn't know if he would actually get it or something like that. But yeah, he was like, I think he and his wife were trying to work it out so that they can get it or something. And Andy overhears this conversation. The guys are on top of the roof. They're tarring the roof. And Andy overhears this conversation. And his first thought is, oh, let me see how I can help him and his wife's situation. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So, but he goes.
It's also an opportunity.
It's an opportunity. That's exactly.
That's the thing is Andy's like, he's always like looking for, well, on the one hand, he's looking for ways to like bring meaning to his own life, right? So even like the fact that he writes all these letters to get a library put into this prison, and but what's so interesting is like how you keep seeing his quiet determination. So, and how even though you don't initially know in the beginning of the movie like what he's planning, you know, I mean now everybody knows because it's film so famous, but just the fact that he's has this quiet determination throughout the whole thing, like with different things. Like for the library, he writes how many loads and loads and loads of letters to finally get a response. And then even when he gets that response, he's like, yeah, but that's not fully the response he wanted. So he continues to write letters until he gets the full deal of what he wanted.
Meanwhile, people are like, come on, dude, give up. It's like, this has been done before. It's like, come on.
Yeah, and he just doesn't, no matter what anybody says, or even like
relentless.
And then that great scene. Oh, okay. So the most amazing scene next to the ending, well, one of the great scenes. I mean, there's so many great scenes in this one. But when he goes, so one of the things he gets delivered into the library is records, music. And then he goes and he puts this record on, and he locks the guard in the bathroom, and he puts the record on, and then he turns the microphone on, so all the guys that are out in the courtyard or whatever, in the prison yard, all of them, it's such a glorious scene. They're just like
mesmerized.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I don't even think this scene was supposed to be like noticeable or all that visible. But dude, did you see that guard? There was another prison guard out there in the field. He was literally looking up and kind of like, I was staring at him like, oh my gosh, even the prison guard.
Yeah, I think that was kind of part of the thing is it doesn't matter who you are, that the beauty of the music will stop you.
Because the reason I was so impressed by the prison guard was because then, you know, eventually you see the other guards coming and knocking on the door, like demanding that he open the door and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow. It was such a beautiful and captivating moment.
And the fact that he did the other thing that's so beautiful about it, right? He could have just sat in the library listening to music or told a couple guys. But the fact that he knew the risk he was taking to do that for those guys, just so that they could experience something magical or beautiful.
Oh my god!
And then he ends up in like in isolation for like, what was it, a month or something? So, and then the guy comes in, then the head of the prison, and he comes in and he keeps him in there another month. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But just the fact that he did that, like he did all these things which were selfless, like self-sacrificing, really.
He was so good at what he did to the point where the dude, the prison guard, didn't want to let him go.
Yep.
You know, which is essentially why he had to stay in the hole for another month, because he was trying to discipline him. Like, no, you're going to be guy. Exactly. You're going to stay with me. And then for him to go as far as to have the witness, the guy who could have witnessed to, because it comes out eventually that Andy is actually innocent.
Yep.
And we actually get to have the inmates a new inmate is introduced, and he knows the person who's actually responsible for killing Andy's wife and lover. And oh my gosh, this is what Andy's been in prison now by like 15 years at this point or something crazy. So now there's an opportunity. Oh my gosh, you guys, he's going to be let free, right? He's going to be set free. Yes? No. Because then awful, this evil dean guy, whatever, this Bible-toting horrible man, he learns, because, Andy, comes to him and it's like, oh my gosh, this guy, he knows who actually is responsible for the killing, and he thinks this is so sad. He's so trusting, he's so happy, and he's trusting this guy, this horrible man, and he's like, oh, is that right? And then has this guy killed just so that Andy could stay with them in the prison and working. But I was like, are you kidding me?
But No,
I was just going to say, there was actually a moment, like, I was like thinking, oh my gosh, like I was taking this movie like really, really literally. And I was like, this is like a real life situation. Lord, help me. It's like praying, like, God, please help me. This is horrible. How?
But this is one of the things I think is so powerful about this film is it shows this extreme, like you see these prison guys, not that they're like claiming to be great people or anything, but we don't even know if half of them committed the crimes, right? So they could be innocent too, but a lot of them have said that they've done this or that, some petty crime or whatever. Yeah. But the fact that you see this contrast, and you see this contrast between Andy, who has been convicted of this horrible crime, who's in there just quietly going about his business, just doing good. And then you see this other guy who thinks he's so righteous running the prison, and he's actually doing so much evil and causing so much like suffering, because in that guy's mind, he somehow has convinced himself that he's doing what God wants him to.
Which is so scary.
And gosh. But the whole point of this whole thing is the fact that what is so extraordinary about this film, one of the many things, is the fact that through all of this, Andy has been literally chipping away, and there's so much symbolism and so much to this, like that he's been quietly chipping away at that wall for decades or however long, 20 years, 15 years.
I think it was less than 20 years, because I think that was read something like, so we learned that it took less than 20 years to chip down,
and just the fact that he was doing that, nobody knew he was doing it, and he was so good at just keeping this quiet presence, and also the risk he was taking to keep trusting that nobody's going to find out about it, and just the fact that it's like, well, what's your other option? It's either stay in there the rest of your life. Yep. That's why that line, get busy living or get busy dying, is so powerful, because it's like, so it may take 20 years.
I don't even think I remember that line.
Oh, yeah?
Ooh, that's powerful, you guys. Wow.
Remember he says that to Red when they're sitting outside, when he tells them about
Okay, I'm waiting to get there, but I didn't realize. Ooh, okay.
But anyway, just that thing that he's, all that time, he's like, he's either going to die in there or he's going to die trying to get out.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and just even the fact of like when you see how intricate that escape was.
And you guys, the thing that's so amazing about this movie, I mean, prison can, having this, being a movie about prison can seem very extreme. but you can relate this to anything in your life, because there is a prison in your life, whether it's a job, yes, I said it, or or just a
living environment, a living situation.
Yes, there's so many things that you can apply.
Or a mindset.
Because honestly, let's keep it real. This movie is about a mindset.
Yeah.
This movie is completely about a mindset.
Yep.
It's like they're in a physical prison, but they're also in a mental. Come on, they're in a mental prison. You better praise the Lord.
Because this is the thing too. If you think about like so many of these people that were in that, like, who also probably had life, but he's the only one that was like, yeah, but he's not dying in there.
Oh, okay. Can we get to because I'm starting to shake. Can we get to the? Okay, you start us off.
Okay, well, so there's the scene where Andy and Red are sitting outside, and after Andy does the thing where he plays the music, and then he gets put in the hole for doing that, right?
Yeah.
And then he comes out, and then they're all back at the lunch table or whatever, and then they're all like, oh man, I can't believe you did that, whatever. He's like, oh, easiest time I've ever done was in that, whatever. And they're like, yeah, right. And then Andy says I'm getting chills now. Andy says those great lines about hope. He says music, it like reminds you that there's something else, and they're looking at him like, what? And he goes like, what else? And he said hope, and then Red says that's dangerous.
Yeah.
You're talking like that.
Yeah. Oh.
And then Andy says, and then
I'm running around.
And then Andy says like they can't take that away from you.
Ooh,
like no one.
That's the one thing. You guys, that's the one thing no one can ever take that away from you. No one. Oh, that's right. Because
and then remember, and then later they're sitting outside and he's talking to Red, and then he says, and then Andy tells him his vision for what his vision is for when he gets out.
I can't. I cannot.
About how he's got this. He knows exactly. He's so clear on his vision.
Yes, so
he knows the
clear.
Spot. He knows what he's going to be doing there. He knows what the water's going to look like.
He's like sanding the boat. Like he's seeing all of this stuff.
In his mind.
He literally has the place. Like there's a place in Mexico. I don't remember how you say it.
Guantanamo
or something.
Somebody knows how to say it.
He has, as he's, I guess, chipping away at that wall, he's like uncovering. He's uncovering that vision. That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. So they're out there talking, and he says that he just kind of just goes over in detail this vision that he has for when he gets out. Then this is how he even starts to kind of excite Red, because Red is just listening to
he's listening to it thinking that's impossible.
It's impossible.
Like that's just silly. No way. Why are you? He basically doesn't even say something like, "Why are you doing that?" Like almost like, why would you do that
to yourself? Yeah. Like why? Don't do this to yourself, man. It's like, come on, let's.
You see?
Yeah, let's be realistic. Right?
Yeah.
And then so Andy, oh how I love this man.
I know.
Andy's like, okay, let me kind of inject him with a little hope. He's like,
he says one day he's gonna get out of there.
One day
when he gets out.
When you get out.
When he plants it to Red rather than for himself?
But this is the thing, because Andy says to him,
when you get out, you go, and he tells him exactly the spot. And he tells him the spot is near this tree, and that's where him and his wife made love, and that's where he asked his wife to marry him. And then he says, and there's going to be I love when he says, and you're going to see this tree. And it's got no business being out in the middle of this field and whatever. And then he says, and over by that wall, you're going to find this rock, and you're going to move that rock,
take it up, and
there's going to be
something there, and suddenly now Red is like really intrigued. And he's like,
what is it?
Well, what is it? Well, you're going to have to get out to find out. Suddenly, hope is not so dangerous anymore, or maybe it is, but guess what? I'm willing to take that risk, because now you've just made me you made me want something more. Mm-hmm. It's like, what is it that I should be? So now, I was like, it's so funny. I was telling my sister about the film.
And she hadn't seen it.
No. She hadn't seen it. Well, it's like I have more than one sister, you guys. But there was one.
Any of them seen it?
No. I mean, actually, Pamela kind of was like me. She was like saying, "Shout out to Pamela. Hey, girl." So she said, "Yeah, I tried, but I couldn't get through it." And then I was like telling her more, and she was like, I didn't tell her anything that happened, but I said, no. I'm like, girl, you need to watch it. You need to watch it. Faith. That's all I say. Faith. And she was like, okay. So but when I was talking to Paulette, I told her the movie because I knew she wasn't going to take the time to watch it. Shout out to Paulette. So when that situation in terms of like, you know, oh, you're going to find this rock, you're going to find this tree. And Paulette was like, but wait, what? I mean, did he plant something there before? Like he even, and I was like, girl, okay, keep going, Mo. Sorry.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So then, so he's planted that seed into Red Butler, into Red's heart and in his mind. Mm-hmm. And and then not long after that, he basically like
Red's released. Oh yeah, sorry.
No, first Andy's released.
That's right.
But the whole point is
Andy released.
Huh?
Andy's released on his own accord.
Sorry. Okay. So then the big moment happens in the film where they're like, so he's arranged this whole. It's kind of funny because we're just pretty much giving a recap of the movie.
Pretty much, but it's amazing.
So basically, then Andy has. I mean, maybe this is for people who aren't going to take the time to watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
But then Andy. He has basically meticulously planned out this whole thing. So, like, he's all the way down to, like, the Bible that he had, how he had his chisel that he had put into the Bible. Mm. And so he's done this whole thing where he's doing the taxes for this dean of the prison. And then he's, like, got his shoes. He's going to have put his shoes out in the shoebox and whatever. And then the guy doesn't realize that he's put on his shoes. Anyway. And the bottom line is that they come to check in the morning for all the prisoners for roll call, and then they realize he's not stepping out of his cell like he's supposed to. And then they all go up there, and they're just like, and the dean is like, What do you want to tell me? This man just disappeared into thin air? What? And then one of them throws a stone, and the stone hits the poster, goes through the poster, and then they realize that there's nothing behind the poster. There's nothing
behind the poster. Huge hole
A huge hole that has been hewn out of that wall over like years and years and years.
Oh my god!
And then you see this. Not only that, it's what's so great about it though is it shows you the whole grueling thing from his prison sentence all the way to that disgusting experience of what he had to go through to climb out of there through the sewer. And then that moment when he comes out on the other side of that sewer and it's raining and then he raises his hands up to the sky.
How perfect was it that it was thundering and lightning that night when he escaped? Yeah. That was just way perfect. Yeah. And it's raining and it's just like,
But it's also this like, it's also, I believe, I mean, I don't know if the screenwriter intended it because it's based on a Stephen King story. Yeah. But I don't know if he intended it, but spiritually speaking, when he comes out, it's like a new birth. Then it's like baptism.
For sure.
I mean, it's just gosh, it has so much to it.
And then Red, so then, eventually you cut to Red. He finally goes back before the board. And now he's just incredibly honest because before...
And he doesn't care anymore.
He doesn't care. He's just like,
whatever.
You know what, you guys have made your decision. You're never going to let me go. I'm just done. And what do you know? All of a sudden they approve him. Yeah. And so now he's released. And in the beginning, the first, I don't know how long, what span of time he was out, but in the beginning, it was kind of like, he seemed somewhat hopeful. And then gradually it started to kind of get a little down. And it was like,
when he got a job, like he didn't. It's interesting. What I find interesting is that he didn't right away go.
That actually really got to me too. I'm like, wait a minute, dude. It's like, how did you forget? I mean,
I think that I don't know. I feel like the screenwriter put that in, or Stephen King put it in, because this elderly man, Brooksy, who's been in the whole movie, this sweet little man, and he had been in there for like 50 years. And when he got out, he was so he just had no sense of hope or meaning for his life, and he ended up like wanting to first try to commit a crime so they wouldn't even release him from prison, and then later ends up bagging groceries, and he just ends up like so lonely and no sense of community or anything that he commits suicide. So I think the reason they put that Red scene in is just to show like, okay, Red goes through similar thing, and he goes to the same spot where Brooksy killed himself, and Brooks was here, and Red puts, so was Red.
Yeah. Oh, and but the outcomes are... oh, my gosh, you guys. I'm sitting here with another new revelation. That is amazing. Yeah. Oh, my gosh, you guys. It's like before you is life and death. Choose life. But just in general, in terms of perspective, it's like.
But also, it's interesting because maybe if Andy had not told Red, this is waiting for you.
Let's keep it real, because I was going to say, because all of a sudden that thing that was so dangerous, suddenly Red was reminded of hope. He had a tingle of hope because he's like, oh, wait, hold on. Because he was starting to get down.
Yeah.
He was starting to get down.
Maybe up until that point, he had disregarded what Andy had said. But didn't Andy also say to come and find him? Or did he not say that? Oh, no, he said that in the letter. Okay.
Yeah. So now
Red gets on the bus and goes and finds a spot.
Finds the spot, lifts up the rock, finds a tree, lifts up that rock, and there's an envelope
sure enough,
with
there's
money.
There's this box, like an old tin box, looks like it's been there for 100 years. And then, he opens it up, and inside is the money and a letter from Andy.
Okay, you guys, you don't understand.
For Andy to have put that there knowing Red would show up.
Let me tell you, this is the part that I literally was swinging at the air. I stood up, I was swinging. I'm like, what? Because I had no idea, because I'm like, at that scene when Andy's saying to him, you're going to go and find this thing. I'm thinking that, he just happened to bury something there years ago, that maybe somebody's one day will find or whatever. Come to find out, there was nothing there. Andy had to get out first. So his vision suddenly was including Red.
Yep.
Because he's like, okay, now I had all of this plan, but now that Red is in this vision, now I need to deliver this pack. I need to get out. I really need to get out now, because I need to make sure that Red has enough hope to get out and find I cannot. That part really did me in, because I was like, Andy, because he was speaking so matter of fact. He was saying it like it was done. It was truth. He was like saying, there is this. You're going to find it. It's going to be. I'm like, oh my, you mean to tell me he was just basically telling him what will eventually be? Because you guys, you have to understand, this was faith in the works. He was speaking it. And that was, I think, even enough of an incentive for him, because he always, I think, already had an incentive to get out. But I feel like he was ignited by the lack of hope that Red had. And that when he was like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, it's dangerous. I think that put a fire under Andy. And he was like, you know what? No. Okay, I have to make sure. I'm gonna prove to you that, Go ahead.
And then also when Andy had gotten out, he had basically all the stuff that this horrible dean had been having him do with his taxes. Andy was actually using all of that to build up and put the money in the bank for himself.
That's the part, because when you were talking about,
like, he had like some way tax-wise legally that he created some entity, some person to go get that, to just be able to go into the bank.
What was that line that he used? He was like, I had to go to prison to learn how to be a crook.
Yeah, something like that.
It was hilarious, because the things...
before I was in prison, I was an honest man. I had to go to prison to learn how to be a crook.
But you know what was funny? It was funny because he was using a gift that he naturally had, but that he used with some street smarts. And Jesus ain't mad.
But he knew, but he said all of it's legal. That's how he helped those other guys. Right? He was like, yeah, but it's not illegal. It's just, you just have to understand how the taxes work.
Right. It's amazing.
And that's the whole thing too, of how he was like prepared beforehand by the very fact of the job he did. He was a tax consultant.
Gosh,
right?
you guys.
Okay, so then we want to get towards the end now.
Well, yeah.
So then, of course, the ending is just like, it makes my heart leap every time I think about it. When basically Red goes there and Andy is there on that beach with that water exactly the way he described it, sanding that boat.
Oh my gosh.
And then Red comes walking up, and it's so beautiful because you hear the way it ends, you just see the two of them reunited, but the voiceover is Red saying, I hope my friend Andy is there. I hope the Pacific is as blue as he said it would be. And he said, I hope. and that's how it ends.
Wow. You guys, the vision is real. You guys, I seriously...
This is a template for things to come.
Seriously. Not only just for us, but for you guys as well. Just saying, stay tuned. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm thankful that you had me to watch the movie again for real, because I'm almost glad I wasn't paying attention on the plane, because I could have been screaming and acting a fool.
They would have been like, we land and get this lady
exactly. But it was
Paige running up and down the aisles.
Seriously, I mean, the amount of hope and faith that's in this film is insane.
And just to make this point, if anybody's still listening at this point, right. But what's so incredible to me is it's such a perfect faith film that's not even Christian. All of this to me is like, this is how to tell a story about faith.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no it's not some overt message shoved down. It's like it says everything.
Yes.
Within the story.
Yeah.
Within the characters.
Of course they had to like add that dean guy who's just overly religious and just like evil and oh my Lord, and that's not of God. You know. Yeah,
but that's but it makes it so clear because you see like how here's Andy helping people. He's not talking about God. He's just living it out.
Exactly. You know? Exactly. It's like faith without works. You know what I mean? It's like he's actually showing in his actions, like he is proving that God is real in his actions, and you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's an amazing film. Even if, hopefully you would have watched the film and then listened to this. But if you listen to this, I hope it's pumped you up enough to actually want to see it and not be surprised by anything that happens. But I absolutely loved it. Loved it. Andy it's so funny because naturally, he was like the main character, but I was expecting to be more like in love with Morgan's character, Red. I mean, he was great. Of course, no doubt. But that just did me in. The fact that he was telling this dude his vision, and I had oh my gosh. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This was never really the case. It only became the case because you spoke it and you saw it. Because you spoke and you saw it, it became. You know what I mean?
And then he believed in it.
He believed in it so much.
That's the main thing. To the point where
he brought somebody else into
it. Because he believed it. It drew the other person, like their faith out.
I can't. That honestly, that is my mission. I want to be I want to be the water or like the seed to help bring that level of faith and that level of hope out of someone who's like, it's pointless. Yep. No, it's not.
Nothing is ever hopeless.
Nothing is ever hopeless. Ever.
Nope.
Oh my gosh.
And again, it's not just the power of belief, but I believe it's the power of persevering belief, persevering faith, like not just believing for a little while, but believing even when it looks like the more impossible it looks, the more you believe.
Exactly.
The more like you go, oh, that means it's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying of course, I think there's certain things where I'm like, okay, there's just laws of nature or but I'm just saying things that would seem impossible, like an Andy situation, like his situation.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Exactly.
That like everything looks like that could never happen, or that person could never get out, or that situation could never change. And if someone believes.
So let me tell you also, just to add with regards to the movie, sometimes you need to be a little silent. You don't need to be telling everybody everything. Because that also helps to protect your faith as well, because there is a time to speak. There is a time to share like the level of faith and the level of hope. But there is also
depending on who you tell, because he only told Red.
Let's keep it straight.
He didn't tell anybody else.
Let's keep it straight real. And even
because those other guys didn't have, even Red, it was a challenge, but those other guys didn't have really the maturity to handle that.
But even still, he didn't even tell Red what he was doing. He didn't tell Red that he was chipping at the wall. Yeah. That was something between him and God. You know what I mean? It's like, Lord's like, yeah, you can tell that, but no. This time is our time. Mm-hmm. You guys, please.
Yep.
This movie, it's amazing.
Quiet, persevering faith.
Yes, that's the name of this episode.
That and all the spoilers of Shawshank.
Exactly.
It's like they're gonna, if anybody did listen to this song, they're gonna be like, well, now I don't gotta watch it. That's what my mom usually says. She's like, well, don't tell me, then I don't need to watch it.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, you guys, thank you for tuning in. That's pretty much the movie. It seriously can be applied to life.
Man,
it's so great. It's so applicable,
and it's also the fact that, again, there's a reason that it's so universally loved by people. I don't care where I am, what part of the world, what kind of person. People, you mentioned that movie, and if somebody's saying, like, oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. I can say that now too and really mean it, because before it's like, oh, have you seen Shawshank? Yeah, I know. Yeah, there are moments that I remember, but now, yes, it's a great film.
Thank you all for listening, and we love you, and we appreciate that you take the time to listen and to comment and to write us and to let us know how you're doing. But like we said before, you're always welcome to send us whatever you would like us to pray for, because let us tell you, there are things happening that when we do our episodes on them, you will be like, pray for me too.
Yes.
So, yeah. So thanks for listening. We love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Happy birthday.
Bye.
Bye.